Dentistry and General Radio Network presents
the Independent Dental Practice Podcast with Dr. Sonny Spera. In this episode,
you need to focus on your staff. People are always like, oh, the patient's always right. No, they're not. No one talks to my staff like that. Like, I let them dismiss people. If they're like cussing them out or being a jerk, if I expect them to respect the patients, then I have to expect the patients to respect them too. It's a communal relationship.
Dr. Kim Power, her journey in dentistry from associate to owner. A discussion with Dr. Sonny Spera.
Dr. Sonny Spera, welcome to the Independent Dental Practice Podcast. Today, I have someone who I think has a larger-than-life personality. I've met her for, I think, 3 minutes so far. But just in communication with her, she is a hoot, but she is unapologetically herself, and I absolutely love it. I know that she's going to give it to you straight, and there's just going to be no BS, okay? And apologize right now if we have a couple off-color words, because that may happen. I get it. Let's roll. All right, that's Dr. Kim Power. She's a dentist that practices in Smithfield. Oh, by the way, maybe one of the funniest bios I got from guests doing this now for 5 years. Okay, she lives about 30 minutes away from her practice in the heart of Raleigh, right near where she grew up. She has 5 fur babies and 15 lovely ladies she works with. Since her therapist says work isn't a hobby, she enjoys hanging with friends, playing board games with her boyfriend, and slowly killing her houseplants and her bonsai tree, Mr. Thornberry, of course. She graduated dental school from UNC in 2016. That's a Tar Heel for you right there. And worked in 5 different offices before buying her own in 2021. Since then, the practice has exploded and grown from producing $1.1 million in 6 operatories with 2 assistants, 1 hygienist, 1 front desk, and 1 dentist, to 15 girls and soon to be 16 operatories. I didn't stutter, 16 operatories in a strip mall she bought right down the street. So we got an entrepreneur all over the place. She loves all things dentistry and can't wait for the expansion. Let's roll. Welcome, Dr. Kim. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. How are you?
That's awesome. Had your nails done? This is a good day for you.
Yes.
There we go. If you're watching this, there you go. Comment on the colors. We're good. All right. So tell me, when you grew up, dentistry, how'd you get into that?
I was good at science. I had a good experience with my orthodontist. He was really cool. I wanted to be able to sustain myself and not have to rely on a guy, honestly. And here I am.
All right. Independent. I like it. Okay. Now, what about college? Where'd you go to college? Were you also UNC?
No, I went to UNCW, and then I read the fine print and I didn't graduate. So I started dental school a week before I turned 21 and graduated 24. So took the accelerated path.
Wow. So you didn't graduate on purpose. You went to dental school, right? You
Yes.
did not. Okay. All right. So what's attraction? Why dentistry? Why did you get into it? Just because you were good in science? You wanted to ask this, but you already said, but specifically because you were driven to do this, right? You got in early.
Yeah.
Did you know dentists? Or other dentists, were there role models for you?
No, not really. I really liked, they had this show when I was younger called 10 Years Younger on TLC. I don't know if anyone ever watched it, but they had like before and afters and they redid people's teeth. And I thought it was really cool. And then I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna be a dentist. And then I decided that at 15 and shadow dentist and joined the pre-dental club in undergrad, ended up being president of that and morphed that around. And yeah, just had the blinders on and went for it.
Now, did you have any dentists that you saw the program, like you said, but were there any dentists in your life that were encouraging? And were there any counselors that were encouraged? Because I had the exact opposite. Everybody told me you're going to change your mind since I was 13 years old. How about you?
Nope. My parents were pretty supportive. My mom graduated college, like I think maybe a year or 2 before I was born, like when later in life. My dad didn't graduate college. They were both in computers and nobody was really encouraging me. I was definitely a big self-starter. Like my parents were just like, okay, just like whatever, do what you want. And
okay. So they fed it though. They fostered it. They encouraged it.
Oh yeah. My family's very supportive, and anything that I needed from them, they were pretty.
So what were their careers, if you don't mind me asking? What were their careers?
My dad he's definitely like a big people person. He ended up, no college degree, ended up first delivering PCs in New York City at a company called Rent a PC. The World Trade Center got bombed for the first time. My mom said, we're moving. So we moved to North Carolina, and then he worked his way up and ended up getting a job at Duke and was pretty high up in IT he was more in management, like leadership management kind of thing. And I actually got a lot of my like leadership
I was just going to ask you that question.
Yeah.
Because it's a
Yeah.
perfect marriage right there. Yeah.
Yes.
How about mom?
And my mom worked so she actually was the one who started in tech, and then she stayed at home with me and my brother until I was like 8 years old. And then she worked some odd jobs here and there, and then ended up at AIG Valak, which is an insurance company. And she was like,
Big insurance company.
so she was like internal tech support for them and was like helped their analysts like with their system and blah, blah, blah.
So hardworking entrepreneurs, excuse me, definitely unafraid of working. And your brother? What's your brother in?
My brother so he's actually in video editing.
Okay.
So he lives in Georgia and he's super talented. He actually did all of my work on my website. Anyone wants to go look at it? And also he did some stuff. He did some procedure videos for me, which is really helpful. I'm actually about to roll that out soon. But basically the stuff I say all day, every day, I basically record as a video. And then I'm just going to hand the patients the iPad of me telling them exactly what I would tell them all day. And then I'm going to roll in and be like, do you have any questions? No, great. Awesome. Yay.
Okay. Does he got his own little business?
He doesn't. He's trying to get something a little bit more stable because he just got married. And so he's been contracting. And I told him, I was like, you're a super hard worker. Like, you're really talented, all this stuff. But I was like, you can get in the dental industry. Like, we're a bunch of dummies who just throw money at problems. Like, you should definitely do that. And he was like, I look at you and I look at how much work you put into it. He's like, I just don't want to do that. And I was like, that's fair. So he's looking for a job if anyone needs a videographer.
Gotcha. There's a plug. I like that. Okay. All right. So dental school, let's get right to it. So in dental school, did you flirt with any specialties real quick or no?
Yeah. So I went in all guns blazing for ortho, and
you had a good relationship with your orthodontist. Makes sense. Yeah.
Yes. And then I'd gotten 10 Bs in my entire life, and I got straight Bs my first semester, and I thought my life was over. And so I was like, oh no, I'm going to have to be a general dentist. And then the second you took an ortho class, UNC has you take like a wire bending class. And I was like, this is horrible. Why does anyone want to do this? And so, yeah, actually now I hate ortho. So I pretty much do everything but ortho.
Okay. All right. Now, was the aesthetics, was that a big issue? Because you said that was one of the things that turned you on to initially.
Yeah, it was. But then when I started getting into everything that dentistry was, because honestly, I didn't know anything about dentistry because I'd never had a cavity in my whole life until I was 26. So I didn't really know anything about dentistry, to be honest. And then I just fell in love with it. And I was like, I love just everything. And that's why I did general, because I was like, I can do everything. And I pretty much do everything. I do a lot.
Now, I didn't have the luxury of not having cavities when I was a kid. However, I went in same as you. I just let them teach me whatever it was. Because if I had a preconceived notion and if I knew that there was like a lot of artistic things, I would have in a million years not gone into it because I couldn't even draw a stick figure. My penmanship is atrocious.
Same.
Yeah, I let them teach me and I think I did pretty well at it. So I a lot of respect because I agree wholeheartedly. Now, you graduate, what do you do? What's your first job? And how do you find it?
Yeah, this is actually going to be a pretty like common theme throughout, but a lot of my opportunities in dentistry has been just like networking, like knowing people and like things like that. So my first job, my dad was going to this dentist for a while and was always talking about me and stuff like that. And then he'd always said, I want to do ortho. And then when I was going to graduate, he was like, oh yeah, she's not doing ortho, she's doing general. And actually my ex-husband's brother was friends with her son. And so
can anybody follow that? Can anybody follow that?
I know.
Okay.
It's crazy. So I ended up working for her for a year.
What kind of practice was that?
Pretty very run of the mill, just very bread and butter. She brought me in because she wanted to extend hours. I love sleeping in. So she was like 11 to 7. I was like, perfect. I did, well, when you get out of school, how much extractions do you do? But I was willing to do extractions and endo, and she didn't do any of that. PPO, regular kind of run of the mill thing, but just wasn't ready for an associate. She'd had associates, but I'm talking in the matter of wasn't busy enough, at least for me, wasn't busy enough. And I worked my year and we have a still great relationship. I have a lot of respect for her and grateful for the opportunity. But
so you go in and you're complimentary. You're complimentary in that you do things she doesn't do. You're working hours she doesn't work. Patient wants to see somebody at this time. You're not getting her. You're going to get Kim. You need extraction. You're going to see Kim. You need root canal. So that's actually a nice way to get started building a little nest or building your own little core of patients by doing that. And patients don't feel bad because you're the person that does it. No slight on the other doctor. I would assume that would have helped you pick up faster, no?
Yes and no. I think it was probably a combination of things. I think that just looking back at it as a business owner now, what I know now, I think part of it was a lack of systems to follow up, follow through, training of the staff. I think another was just pure patient volume wasn't enough for
Right.
two people, even me working extended hours and doing other treatment. And honestly, to be honest, I would sit some days not doing anything all day long. I was not doing anything. And so I would sit there on my phone looking at Facebook groups and just learning. I would literally scroll through, read the posts, read all the comments, and that's like how I learned dentistry, I feel like, on Facebook.
What did your contract look like when you started?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. So it was $500 a day as a daily minimum for 3 months, 50% of the lab bill.
Yeah.
No health insurance, or I think I got a stipend. I think it was like $200 a month for health insurance or something.
Okay.
PTO. I think I did get a CE allowance of $2,500, but I don't remember. But anyway, she actually ended up keeping, and then it was going to go to 25% of production, which is horrible even back then.
25% of production. Okay, so you don't have to worry
Yes.
about any money being collected. You're on straight production.
Yeah, but
There's a little plus there because a lot of people are in collections or something. And then, so 25% of production, you had some other things. What about your out clause? When you wanted to leave, was that a challenge?
it was 90 days notice. It was either 90 or 60 days. I don't remember. But she understood. Like, she knew I was bored. She knew my personality and she saw it coming. And she's like, I totally understand. And we left amicably.
So what was your next step?
Yeah. So again, I met through other people. I had multiple interviews, but I had two kind of people I narrowed it down to. So one was a fee-for-service office. And at the time, it looked great. The two owner doctors were super experienced. The practice had been around for years. They were doing $7 million a year, which is crazy to me even now.
Yeah, two doctors. That's correct.
I was replacing the retiring doctor, and then they.
So you would have been the second, and that one would have been out. So it still would have stayed a 2-doctor practice.
No, it was 3 doctors, and that the guy was retiring,
okay.
and then the 2 people were still there.
All right, so 3 doctors, 7 million. That's a little bit more palatable. But go ahead.
Still a lot.
It's still a lot, yes.
But so they had me at a base salary forever. Like, over the years, like, it would have increased up to $3,000 a day. They started me at $800 a day. I don't remember if I had a lab bill, but
What about like your percent? Aren't you getting past that base at a certain point, or they just kept picking up your base?
So yes, it was. I want to say it was 30%, and it was still in production, I think.
Okay.
But I never ended up getting over the base because they wouldn't share their patients, which was really frustrating to me, honestly.
Even with the guy going out?
Yeah, because so it was almost like 3 separate practices. I found this out later, but it was almost like 3 separate practices, and they bought his patients, and then they were only getting 8 new patients a month, and they were getting split evenly. And so I would see like 1 patient a day, maybe. And some days I would do nothing all day, literally not do a hygiene check, not see patients, never. Like,
Gotcha.
It was very
Okay.
tough.
So how long were you there?
So I was there 2 years because the first year I was at that practice and they actually bought a satellite office. And so there I was actually by myself. And so I started getting excited and I was happier, kind of feeling more fulfilled. And again, this is nothing against them. It's about me. I just need to be busy. That's just my personality. I like running around like a ragged, crazy person. That's me. I think they had really good business acumen and I really respect them as clinicians and also business people. But anyway, so they bought a satellite office. I was by myself, and the office that I had actually turned down before because they were only going to offer me part-time at the time. They came back to me and said, hey, we actually have full-time now. And I knew they were really busy and I really liked the team that I
You were full-time with that other group then?
Yeah.
You were there for 2 years, full-time and not busy?
Not at all.
Now, if it's not a busy practice, although it's a very high producing practice, how are they going for a satellite? Was the satellite designed to say, hey, we're going to get Kim busier by just...
No, it was, I can't speak for them, but I'm thinking what it was, they were trying to expand their diversity, maybe is the right word, but it was their practice in Raleigh. This one was in Morrisville and this one took insurance. And so I think they were trying to offset that, but they were never at that practice. And so I think that was a little bit of a detriment just because there was definitely a disconnect and they didn't really, it's a totally different ballgame.
Not much of a transition, that's for sure.
So I did the best I
throw
could.
you in the water. Here you go.
And I think I did well for I took the practice from doing, I think they were doing like $30,000 a month. So we ended up doing like between 60 and 70 consistently. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it was hard because I was trying to relay their vision, but I'm very different from them too. So I think that was also
it's also hard to put that vision in a completely different business model, right? You got a service business model. Now You're going to a PPO business model. There's some crossover, but there's a lot of differences. And I'm sure you're not getting a lot of training help because this is unfamiliar territory for them.
Yeah.
All right. So you're there. In 3 years, you've been at two different places.
Yeah, essentially three, because I count that as two offices since they had
Okay.
a second office. And then I moved to the other office and they were PPO. I worked there and I was by myself. So it was like so he owned two practices and actually ended up buying another practice.
Mhm.
And he had a practice in Cary that was fee for service. This practice in Garner was PPO. And then they opened up another office in Fuquay that was also PPO. And so I split time between Garner and Fuquay and we rotated. So like one of the owner doctor was in Cary and Fuquay. Then the other associate who ended up going in, long story, but ended up going in with him on Fuquay. He was also at Fuquay, but he was at Garner. So we never overlapped. So I was essentially by myself whenever I was there.
Gotcha.
So yeah. And then I was with them for 2 years and then I bought my practice.
All right. So you've had a lot of experience in the PPO world, right?
Yes.
Okay. How did it come about buying the practice? Let's go through that. Let's go through that process, right? So you're an associate in another practice. Are they aware that you're looking for your own thing? How does that transition out work? Number one. And then number two, how do you find the other opportunity?
Yeah. So when I was looking, I say I was like lazily looking because I was happy. Like I was happy with this practice. I was making over 300,000 as an associate. I love the girls. I love the patients. We all got along well, but I was just looking for a unicorn and I knew my strengths and my weaknesses. I knew that I'm really bad at marketing and I really hate it. And I don't want to beg people to come to me. Like I just want them to show up and me to do dentistry. I also wanted something that was established because I just knew that it was going to be a lot of work and then if it wasn't already established, like I just could never do a scratch start. Or back then I could probably now, but so yeah. And then I was also looking for an established team, a well-trained team, and I wanted to buy the building. And so that was my threshold. And so I was on a couple like email listservs from people. Again, I was just lazily looking. I saw a couple practices, but they were like, flips essentially. So I was like, okay, I'd have to do a lot of work to pick this up. But so this one actually came because I did cheerleading in high school and me and my girlfriends were like, okay, we're getting fat. So we need to do tumbling or something to work out. So we ended up doing adult tumbling and became friends with the tumble instructor. And the tumble instructor was like, hey, one of my clients, or the dad, is selling his dental practice. Did you want me to hook you up with him? And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. So this was in July of 2021. We exchanged numbers. I went to see the practice by that Saturday. And by the 26th of July, I turned in the LOI. So it was pretty fast. We were like talking and he was like, by the way, I'm moving to Colorado or Nevada. So he was like, I'm moving across the country. And I was like, oh, when? He was like, August 1st. And I was like, I have a 60-day notice. And like I told you, I was by myself at the practice when I was there. And there wasn't a penalty or anything like that, honestly, but I just felt like it was the right thing to do to work out my notice. That's what I would expect. If it was like they had a ton of doctors and they didn't need me, like I'd be like, oh, hey, can you let me out? But like, I just didn't think that was the right thing to do. So I did work out my contract and that did hurt me a little bit because a lot of the patients were seen by just temps and it was just a nightmare. And then the girls, of course. So it was a little interesting because normally when you buy a practice, it's a secret. No one knows. And then you just walk in.
And you're there introducing yourself. Yeah.
For me, it was a little different because so he brings me in after I sign the LOI and I sit down and he's, yep, I'm moving and here's your new boss. And I was like, hey, I'm sure this is like a shock to you guys. I just want to let you know that I really value each and every one of you. And I want to make sure that you know that like you're safe here and I value your input. And so I'd love to take each one of you out to dinner individually and just get to know you. We can talk about work if you want. If that's fine. Took them out to eat. And then I was just essentially love bombing them. Please don't quit. I love you. Just bear with me here. Bringing them treats like randomly because like they were just dealing with a bunch of temps. And yeah, so that was a nightmare. But
what did the practice look like? You said it was a $1.1 million practice when you bought it?
Yes. So it was doing between 1.1 and 1.3 when I bought it. So the practice has been around for 50 years or something. It was made in the 70s. The guy that I bought it from was an associate there. And then he bought it in 2017 or 2018. I can't remember.
No, so 4 years. Huh?
Yeah. And then I bought it from him. So it was nice too. And that wasn't a deal breaker, but that was a nice thing because I didn't want to buy from some guy that's like retiring because I walk in and they're like, who the hell are you? And you're this tiny little girl or whatever. And I don't want to have to deal with everyone's amalgams falling apart. And they're like, this guy said it was fine. So yeah, so that was nice. But anyway, where was it? Oh yeah.
What was the practice netting if it was grossing?
Yeah. So his overhead, when I was looking at his P&Ls and stuff, it was ridiculous. I was like, is this right? His overhead was between 39 and 50%. Yeah. So he was taking home 600 to
Yeah.
800.
Okay.
Not by the way.
What did he ask? What was his asking price?
So he didn't have it listed, right? And I honestly don't remember what he asked for, but I offered 1.1 million. So I paid 1.1 million for the practice.
Which is about 2x his net. And in
Yeah.
a high demand area, that's a good value. And heck, if you're going to be in the $500,000-$600,000 net, that practice is going to be paid. And then you take into account attrition, but your practice is going to pay for itself in fairly quick order. Well, did you have to finance it? Talk about what you had to do to get the practice.
In North Carolina, they weren't doing when I bought it, they weren't really going off of EBITDA. Like it's more of a corporate thing, and we don't have corporate here, really. We do, but not as bad as everyone else. Yeah. So typically they do 85 to 100% of the last 3 years collections average. That's how we factor it. I don't know if that's still the case, but anyway, so yeah, so I paid 1.1 million at the time. And then I also bought the building. So the building was 325, which is awesome. It's in Smithfield, so it's a small town. So
you said that was what you were looking for, was purchase the building and the practice. What was the building? Was the building appraised by separate appraisers? What did that look like?
No, he just was like, it's 325. And I was like, okay.
Okay. So you go to the bank, do you need a separate mortgage and then a commercial loan for the business?
Yes.
You're dealing with two different loan officers, right?
No. So I worked with a fairly local bank, and they've been amazing.
I can't say that enough. You're going to do something, make sure you go talk to the local bank because they want money in their community. And then you can always talk to other people, and but I would always speak to two banks. I would never just focus on just one. But
so I spoke to three. And actually, I don't know if you know this about my practice, Sonny, but I thought it was funny that you're like fee for service practices. And I'm like, ooh, I take Medicaid. But so I talked to First Citizens, Bank of America, and Southern First. So Southern First is the bank I went with. And actually, First Citizens would not even loan me the money, even though the overhead was like killer, because it was over 15% Medicaid, which is crazy to me.
Really? They dive into what type of practice?
And this guy was like, oh my God.
What do they care?
I'm so angry. I literally want to give you this money, but I can't. Like they will not.
Numbers are numbers. What's the difference?
I know. It's crazy.
Is that because I got 10 patients, 10% of my patients are homeless. Oh, we're not going to give it to you.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know.
You have a history. You got records. That's the most insane thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Okay. So these are the three. So that's out. Those people are out. And then what happened to the Bank of America? And then you got one local. What happened to Bank of America?
I don't remember, to be honest with you. But my friend had used Southern First, and he turned me on to them, and I got 3.3% interest on the practice and the building. It was separate because I had to have two separate business entities, like one from the building, one.
Did you then set up an LLC that owned the building and then an LLC that owns the practice?
Yes.
I told you I liked you. You're a sharp gal. Okay.
Don't give me credit. It was all my bankers and my lawyers.
Well, I'm gonna give you credit because you did it. Who cares where it came from? The genesis of the idea don't matter. It's the result. So people listening, right? The practice is in one entity that's owned by an LLC or a PLLC or a PC, but in your case, it's an LLC, right?
It's a PLLC.
PLLC, that's what we are. And then your building is a LLC, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the PLLC rents from the LLC.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Yes. So it all worked out. Now, were the terms different in terms of the length? Like sometimes commercial mortgages, they'll only give you 10 years.
Yes. So it was only 10 years.
Both of them?
Yes. But
so they coincide. Any prepayment penalty?
No.
Okay.
But I don't have the money to pay it off.
Okay.
I've just been making, so they did an interest only loan. I'll get to the reason why I don't have money in a second or later, probably. They did an interest only payment for the first year, and they didn't require me to put any money down, which was nice. So interest only for the first year. And then, so essentially it's 11-year term.
Okay. Did you need money like for working capital or for improvements or those kind of things? Was that pocket?
So when I first got there, I was like, oh my God, I cannot work without dry shields. So I bought 6 dry shields, one for every operatory. I bought 6 IO cameras. I bought a bunch of sectional matrices. I think I probably dropped 15 grand or something just on that stuff. But the practice is so profitable. It was just like, I literally opened the bank account and I'm like looking at it and it's just like posting. I'm like, there's 20 grand in a day. Like, what is happening? And Medicaid pays once a week. So it's like just an automatic thing.
Did you buy the receivables or no?
He just gave it to me.
Okay. Well, there's some value there. What was in the receivables? I'm going to guess it was a month or two. Huh?
It wasn't a ton. It was, it wasn't that.
Certainly some cash flow when you start though.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I think he was like, I know I'm screwing you over because like I left and no one's practicing.
Yeah, it would have been nice if he hung on. That would have been a lot more helpful. All right.
And
So
yeah,
what?
anyway,
So what did you see? What kind of attrition, or what happened in the first
no
year?
attrition at all.
Okay. The patients are coming, and so you have Medicaid. What's your percent of Medicaid?
So by income, it's 35%. By patient population, it's about 50 to 60.
So
Just because we have
50% of your practice is providing 35% of your revenue. That's what you just said, right?
no, because their Medicaid is their secondary. So we file their primary first and just Medicaid picks up the difference. So out of all the people that have Medicaid, it's that much, but we're not always getting payment from Medicaid. Does that make sense?
Not by us, because I don't know if Medicaid was ever secondary. It's either Medicaid or nothing, I think, up here.
So it's so for Medicare, Medicaid, so that's pretty common. Like for people with disabilities, so Humana is their primary, and then Medicaid's always a secondary.
Okay.
Or
All
if
right.
kids, like their parents have like MetLife or something through their job, then they'll give the kids Medicaid, but not the parents, kind of
Okay,
thing.
so 35% of your revenue is coming from Medicaid?
Yes.
All right. And 50%, but you said 50 or 60% of your patient base is from Medicaid? Or
Yeah,
has
but
Medicaid? No, it has some form of Medicaid. Okay. And what's the other 50%?
PPOs and fee for service.
Okay. So it's quite a mixed bag, but it's heavily insurance based, right?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. And are you working crazy hours? What are you working?
Nope. So we're 9 to 4, Monday through Thursday, and no lunch. And then we work every other Friday. But I
No
cut
lunch. How do you pull that off?
7 hours. It'll be fine.
In New York State, it's 7 hours. You got to have a 30-minute break in that 7 hours.
Oh, ours is 8 hours.
8 hours without a break?
No, so if you have them work 8 hours, then you have to have a 30-minute break.
Okay.
But if
But
it's
7 hours they
hours,
don't?
no.
Wow, North Carolina, here I come. No, we have it because we used to go 7 to 1 and 1 to 7. That's how we used to split our days. And that was right there. That was, that right number, 6 hours, but you got a half hour early and a half hour late, you're 7 hours. You didn't have to worry too much about it. And New York State is a different state to actually own a business in. Okay. No political commentary necessary. So you have this place, and what does it look like at the end of year one?
So year one, so I took over in October. We ended at 1.4 million.
Okay, so
And then
20% growth, 30% growth, 20%?
yeah. And then, so that was still, okay. So let me break it down, staff members. So when I started, it was one front desk, one hygienist, two assistants, and me. And then right when I got there, oh my gosh, I love my hygienist. I love Ashley. So she's still with me. And the first day I came, she saw 11 patients in 7 hours by herself. And I was like, what's going on? She was like, yeah, they usually don't show up, but sometimes they do. And I'm like, you need a hygiene assistant. And she's like, yeah, that'd be nice. And I was like, yeah. So ended up hiring my front desk's husband's friend's kid, Sydney. She's also still with me. She was pregnant at the time, 20. We've grown up together. It's been a journey. She's amazing though. So hired her. And then I also hired another front desk, Lisa. And then the two assistants, Stacy and Brittany, they're both still with me too. And then in start of year 2, I hired another hygienist, and then I hired so Sydney went on maternity leave, and we found a temporary assistant, Laura. She had just never done dentistry. We hired her off the street, and then Sydney came back from maternity leave, and Laura was like, wait, I like it here. Can I stay? And I was like, sure. And so ended up making Sydney doctor's assistant. Laura is still my hygiene assistant. And then we started building out additional operatories. So when I first saw the building, I was like, okay, it's 6 operatories, but there's these giant offices. This is stupid. It's not utilized space. So I was like, we need to make 2 more operatories. Right. So that's when I got a line of credit, and that's when I built that out. So I spent about $200,000 on just ripping out the ceilings, replacing the lighting, repainting, just making it look a little bit better.
So folks, buys the building for 3.25, and now in 2 years, she's dumping another $200,000 in, but you're also putting 2 more operatories in.
And yeah, so I knew that it was good. I wasn't just spending
money for itself in no time.
Exactly. And I wanted to class it up a little bit. I really didn't I took the ceilings out because it looked like we were in a trailer. Honestly, it was horrible. And I also put in a handicap ramp because there was no handicap ramp, and I just felt bad that people were like, yeah. So I was doing things that increased my revenue. And that's why I bought the dry shields and the sectionals. I just knew it would make me faster and better and give me a good ROI. I wasn't like spending money on cool couches.
You weren't buying shiny new things.
And I also
Catch
really,
most people's eyes. Go ahead.
yeah. And also, honestly, like my girls are so important to me, and like I would rather spend money on them than like other things. So like my two assistants, Stacey and Brittany, I was just appalled by what they were getting paid. And I just immediately, and they're great assistants. And I was like, oh my God, I like immediately raised them. I was like, this is ridiculous.
Now remember, 39% overhead, that's part of it, right? Salaries are incredibly low.
Yeah.
And you're talking about lean and mean, you're only working with 4 people.
I know, but it's just, I don't know. I just like, and they're great. It's not like they suck and like you're underpaying them. It's like they're
Right.
amazing. Like, why would you not pay them more? Like, they're great people. I don't know.
Okay, so you got this. So what year is this now? This is probably 2023. You've
Oh,
built
so
out.
sorry. This is 2022. That's when I started building out the operatories. And I hired a couple more people. So I hired another front desk, but she wasn't great, but did hire her. And I hired an associate dentist. He only lasted a month, ended up saying he didn't want to be in dentistry anymore. That was weird, but whatever. So anyway, then at the end of 2022, we ended at 1.7 million.
The end of 2022?
No.
That's your
Yeah.
second year.
Yeah, 1.7 million.
So
Yeah.
you're 1.7, you're still only operating out of 6 rooms, right?
No, we ended up halfway through the year was,
Okay.
I think so.
That's where that's going to help you jump almost automatically just by having the more availability.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
So you're
So
1.7 in 2023,
Yes.
but at some point you're building this, you're jumping into the strip mall. So get me
Yeah.
to that point. What's the journey between there and there now?
So yes, we did 1.7, and then 2023 we ended at 2.1 million.
Now,
And
is
then
this still just you, or do you have the associate with you now?
no, so I hired another. So after that one quit in September of 2022. Then I hired the new one, who was another guy in 2023. He started in May of 2023. We ended the year at 2.1, and then 2024. Long story, but he quit in January of 2024. I tried to keep up the production. So I was running 5 columns of restorative by myself and 3 columns of hygiene. That was a nightmare. Don't do that. Everyone listening. That was bad. And then I had this mass exodus. So let me back up. So in 2023, me and my ex-husband were trying to get pregnant. Couldn't get pregnant. Went through IVF. Got pregnant in August. Found out he cheated on me. Lost the baby a couple weeks later. Then I found out later in January that my front desk, who I'd hired, one of my first front desk, was stealing from me, and used that time to start stealing from me. She was refunding her credit card. She was stealing cash. Ended up finding that out, and then found that out in January.
Okay, let me ask you before you go on.
Yeah.
How much did you uncover? Because you probably only uncovered part of it. How much did you find?
So when I found out, I just thought it was like $5,500 or $7,000 or something, because she was refunding her credit card. So then I hired a forensic accountant and found it was $68,000.
Yeah, most time they stop at 50 because that's what your insurance or whatever something. And then when you go deeper, it's way more. Now, did you have her arrested? What'd you do?
Yeah. So I turned in the police report to
Good.
the police. And then she got arrested in June of 24, but then she made bail, and she keeps continuing her court case, and she's running free, which pisses me off, but whatever. And she's still denying it. I'm like, are you psycho? I have you on camera. Like I pulled up the camera footage and I saw her do it. And I'm like, how are you?
So she does not have to pay restitution in any way, shape, or form?
She will once she gets convicted, but she keeps putting it off. And I'm like pissed at the DA. So the state is like prosecuting on my behalf. So I'm not having to spend any money on a lawyer, but I don't know what this guy's doing, because I don't know how I could have handed it to him in a box, in a bow.
But she could also go work somewhere else and start ripping somebody else off.
And I'm like, you need to close this case or I will. But anyway, I got 25 grand back from my insurance. She paid me back like 5,000 or whatever. But you know what? I was like, I didn't realize I was missing in the first place. So whatever. I don't know. It'd be nice to be paid back. It was honestly more about the fact that I just want to not be able to do this to somebody else, because I'm fortunate that I'm able to keep my business afloat, but some people can't. That's messed up.
Yeah, it's a trust. You lose the trust and it's broken.
Yeah.
So this happened in 2024 then, or 2023? When did this happen?
So 2023 was when it started. I found out in January of 2024.
Okay.
And then that's when my associate quit. And so I was trying to hold everything together, and I was going through the divorce with my
big time personal turmoil. Yeah.
Yeah. And ended up having to pay him out 250 grand because like it's a joint state and it's his practice too. So yeah. So then I had a bunch of staff leave I had an assistant leave in October of 2024. The associate left in January, which I wasn't really that upset about either one of them. Long story, I won't go into it, but then my hygienist left that I had hired in 2022, and the girl that was working front desk that I actually made office manager, who started with me, like she also gave her notice, and that really hit me hard. We still actually have a great relationship, and she actually might come back to work for me. And I addressed it with my team, and I was like, I take partial responsibility for this because I feel like my leadership has slipped. And yeah, I have personal problems, but that's not your problem. So I'm sorry, and I appreciate you guys staying with me. And this is a kick in the pants, which it was, honestly. And I'm really glad it happened, because that was actually when things started picking up speed, I guess. But so now I have a new associate. She started in September. She's amazing, just great personality, great dentistry, gets along with the girls.
6 months now, right?
Yep. And then have a new hygienist who she's amazing, like to the point where we just had a meeting and I was like, I thought you weren't this nice and you just are. And she's like, yeah. And I was like, awesome. I just have the most amazing team right now. And that kind of gave me the confidence to take it to the next step. And I realized we were maxed out capacity wise. We've got the problem. Our biggest problem, I think, is our no-shows, and we're working on it, but we can't charge Medicaid for no-showing. But booked out wise, like you can't get in for cleaning for months. My next filling appointment's in May. So is my associate. You can't get in for a filling at all. So I was like, okay, I think I have the capacity now to expand. So I cut a clinical day. I'm working Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, every other Friday. My associate's full-time. Just put in a part-time ad for an associate so I can cut another clinical day so I can focus more on admin. And yeah, I found the strip mall. I was like, here, let me put feelers out with a broker. And found this. It's a medical strip mall. It's great. It has 2 tenants in it. They're covering most of the mortgage, which is awesome. The space that I would occupy is 5,900 square feet. It used to be, so it used to be a, what's it called? Gastroenterologist. So they actually had treatment rooms, front desk, everything. So I'm going to spend, so the build out, I got quote for $750, but I think that's a lot less than it would have been if I had to completely gut it.
It's a big tamale. Now, what are you doing with your other property? Are you going to lease that and rent that in something else?
Yeah. So lease it to whatever. I don't know. I haven't decided.
All right. So you're swinging for the fences. I absolutely love this. Talk about fearless. I'm getting a little nervous just listening to you. But so what does the practice look like now then for the last year? You're 2.1. Are you in the 3s now?
No, like I said, I didn't have an associate. So in 2023, I had 2 hygienists for the whole year. I was trying to think because one of my hygienists went out on maternity.
More providers. Yeah. You had more providers.
And then 2 doctors for 6 months. Last year, I only had 1 hygienist for 4 months, and I only had 1 doctor for 8 months. So no, 7 months. So I feel like we still grew, even though we did the exact same. We did almost exact, like within $100. So we still grew.
You put a lot more on your shoulders, what you did.
Yeah. And then this year we're
think about it, you did a lot more with a lot less providers. You got a lot less hands in the pie.
Yeah.
So we were on projection for what? Upper 2s?
So we're up 12% this year. My projection, I said my stretch goal is 2.8. I think realistically 2.5 to 2.7. But the fact that I'm cutting a day and I'm going to have to onboard another doctor, and I think we'll still probably be under 2.5, to be honest with you. But
I mean, let's face it, 2.1 to go 2.5, that's a 20% growth.
Yeah. I guess I'm just used to just keep.
Yeah. And your expenses, right? The fastest way to reduce your overhead is to raise your income, your production.
And so speaking of overhead, full disclosure, my overhead has definitely risen. The first 2 years, it was at between 50 and 55%.
That's very good.
Yeah. 2024 was.
There was a lot of turmoil. You're getting ripped off.
65%.
Yeah. You had 70 grand ripped right out of your hands.
Yeah. And this year it's still a little high, but I'm thinking it's going to go down because I actually fired my office manager. So that was a big salary that I cut, which is nice. But
okay.
But yeah, so and I'm also at this point. I'm at this point where I actually have enough staff for a bigger place, but I'm in a smaller place, if that makes sense.
No, you're ramping up. That's what you should do. You don't want to go in understaffed and try to catch up. You'd rather be overstaffed for a little bit to grow into it because you're already there. You're already getting the team assembled. They're getting used to each other. They're learning their jobs. They're learning your systems. And then when you blow it up, they can help add other people, but you're there. So you won't have what you had. I felt they weren't prepared for me. I felt they weren't ready. That's when I walked in my first practice. I didn't have a dental assistant. I had nobody at the front desk, and I didn't even have an appointment book. So I was like, you guys have known I'm coming.
Oh my God.
So I bought it myself. I bought it. It's like a 5 and dime. I go, here, we'll use this as my appointment book. Oh no, we'll get it. I've been here 3 weeks.
Oh my God.
People are calling, looking. So anyway, you're either ready or you're not. So let me ask you a couple questions now related to other folks now. Put yourself, we've heard about what you've gone through in your shoes. Think back 8-9 years. What's your advice to your younger self? What do you do? A couple of new doctors graduated. They want to do this. A young female doc. She's, hey, I want to get into practice ownership. What do you tell them?
So I would say first, create your ideal practice and create your non-negotiables, because it is so stressful owning a practice. And you just don't even know what all is I kept saying I'm afraid to pick up a rock because I'm afraid what's underneath there. I'm like, let's fix this first.
Hold that thought. I can't emphasize what you just said enough, because I don't think enough people give it enough weight. Got to know what you want. You've got to know what you want. That's, hey, listen, I'm flying down the highway. I'm making great time. Where are you going? I don't know.
Yeah.
You might be going 100 miles an hour in a 50-mile-an-hour zone, and that's great. But if you don't know where you're going, you can go 30 miles an hour. It doesn't matter. You've got to have some texture to what you want. Okay, keep going. I'm sorry I interrupted, but that was a huge point.
No, and also to piggyback off of what you said, you are a leader, you are in charge. And so you have to know where you're going, because people don't want to follow somebody who doesn't know where they're going. And even if you don't know, make it up, figure it out, and just make a decision, because that's what you need to do. But then also on that same vein, I can't tell you enough enough times, you need to focus on your staff. People are always like, oh, the patient's always right. No, they're not. No one talks to my staff like that. I let them dismiss people. If they're cussing them out or being a jerk, sometimes people have bad days. That's fine.
You're backing up your people, and they will they will die on a hill for you.
Yeah.
But
and
you've
that's
proven that you'll do it for them.
And if I expect them to respect the patients, then I have to expect the patients to respect them too. It's a communal relationship. We can't be modeling that behavior. That's okay. And like I said, I spend so much time on my staff. I do meetings, I have these sheets for them that tell my expectations, and we set aside time to meet with each other. I'm really huge about communication with all of them, and the patients with them too. And I think other things fall in line, because you can't motivate somebody with bonuses. You can't motivate them with ruling with an iron fist. They have to love you. I love them and they love me too. And that's how you have to run a business, or else it's not going to last. You're not going to keep staff. They're going to be miserable. Your patients will feel it.
When is your projected open date for the new place?
This time next year.
Okay. So there's a long range plan. You're very crystal clear on your big picture. I think so sometimes with dentists, right, we get caught in the weeds. If you want to make a post about, for example, hey, I want you to look at tooth number 2 and you put an x-ray, you'll get 90 comments on everything but tooth number 2.
I know, right?
Number 4. How come there's I didn't ask you that.
Yes, I know.
That drives me crazy, but that's the dentist. Yeah. You're a big picture person. I really have enjoyed this conversation. What I would love to do is, I'm going to wrap this up, but I really want to have you back for a lot of reasons. One, I love talking to you, but 2, you're just very inspiring. And
Thanks.
I want to know how things are going, right? I want you to fill us in. I want some updates. Let's get back in touch and let's follow through. Thank you so much for sharing so openly, as I told everybody. Ain't no chains on this person. We're going to roll with it. All right, really. And if people want to get in touch with you, I don't have it on your thing, please send it to me. But in the meantime, how can they reach you? Want to give a contact, an email, a website? Please do. Go ahead.
Yeah, my practice is called Smithfield Family Dentistry.
Smithfield, right?
Yes. In North Carolina, there's one in Virginia, I think. Don't do that one. And probably the best way to do would be texting me. Please don't call me. I don't like answering the phone. 919-418-0538. Or they can send me an email, D as in dog, R as in Richard, Power, like Power Ranger, at smithfieldfamilydentist.com.
Okay, Dr. Power. And that's an apt name. I kind of like it. A woman and a powerful business person and a powerful force. I love it. I'm so glad we got to talk.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Independent Dental Practice Podcast with Dr. Sonny Spera, and today Dr. Kim Powers, our special guest. Unapologetically, Dr. Kim Powers. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you like it, please click like, subscribe, share it with your friends. We're on all things where you find all your podcasts, and on YouTube. Find us on the DIG channel, or just type in Independent Dental Practice and it should come up. As always, if you like this, please do that. If you don't, probably the next step. If you don't, please share it with me. Contact me. Email me at sonnyspera@gmail.com or call or text me on my personal cell phone, 607-624-2962. Have a great day. Thanks for listening, everybody.
This has been a production of Dentistry in General Radio Network. Visit our website, dentistryingeneral.com, to join engaging clinical and business conversations, explore our dental podcasts, and stay updated on our upcoming live events.